Good afternoon. My name is Dave DiMartino. I'm here at WMSN with two members of the Soft Machine and two fellow interviewers, and we plan to talk a lot about the Soft Machine in terms of their tour of this country, their third major tour. And with us, we've got Mike Ratledge and Allan Holdsworth of the band, along with Mark Westcott, a Columbia representative, and MSN music director Dave Lang. We plan to do a lot of talking. First of all, Mike Ratledge. He's here on my left. He plays organ, synthesizer, and piano with the group, and Allan Holdsworth, who plays guitar. They're appearing tonight at the brewery. They should be here. They should appear at about 10 o'clock or so with the flock. They should put on a fine show. Let me
say that there's plenty of tickets and whatnot on sale, and a fine time will be had by all too. So folks should come out.
Okay, I'm going to start things off. Let me ask you, Mike. This is your third tour. Could you tell me something about your other two tours?
Well, the first one, which in a sense was two tours because there was a gap between, was with Hendrix, consisting of about 3 months and a month off, and then another 4 months, which in fact, in a sense, destroyed the band. I mean, I think that particular band with Kevin, by the end of it, we were just. It was a situation of working every night, having no time to kind of write new material or kind of rehearse new material. And so you're stuck with the same amount, playing the same stuff every night, and you get.
It's a three-piece band then.
Yeah.
About another thing on your Soft Machine second album, there's a song on there called "Thank You." I don't exactly know the part of it. It's in the first side, and Robert Wyatt is singing "Thank You, Noel and Mitch." Does that have to do with your first American?
Yeah, that was to do with. I'm a considerable help in a sense that the experience gave us by being on that tour.
Okay. About 1971, I believe you had your second tour. Was that true? And at that time, it was a quartet?
Yeah, that was much shorter. In fact, we came over to do the Newport Festival. And the day we arrived, the riots blew the festival out, which is a way that... I mean, this always seems to happen wherever we go. There are national disasters followed by about a day. And so we just did about a month's work around New York. I don't think we got very far west.
Did you play anywhere west at all?
No, we didn't. It was all based around New York. I think we did about a week in the Gaslight.
The Gaslight? Oh.
Yeah, a couple of gigs with Miles Davis in New York, and some other stuff round about.
You never had a chance to play in Newport then because of the riot?
Yeah, right.
Okay. Let me see now, and this, your third tour, is it a tour to promote your new album, Soft Machine 7, or so much, or is it just to hit the country? You haven't been here in a long time.
Well, I mean, the two things are inseparable. I mean, you're certainly not here for the money. I mean, you're here, yes, you're here to kind of promote and get the band around. Because, in fact, I mean, the States has got a very quick, very short memory.
Oh, that's more true than you know. Okay, Allan. You're a new member of the band, relatively speaking. When did you join the band now?
November.
In November, and is this your first tour of America as such, or just your first tour with the band?
It's the first tour with this band, yeah.
In America. How have you found yourself in the band playing? Have you had an experience with members of the band previous to your joining? How did you find each other?
Oh, well, I mean, I enjoy it very much, you know. I have had experience of playing with a couple of the guys before, like I've played a couple of times, well, a lot of times with John Marshall.
Okay, before you go into that, I better explain. Three members of the band who aren't here are Carl Jenkins, Roy Babington, and John Marshall. John Marshall plays drums, Roy Babington plays bass, and Carl Jenkins plays oboe, and oboe.
He plays that better than he plays oboe.
Okay, so they're not here, but I'm sure that their fellow band members will speak up for them in more ways than one. Okay, let me see. I want to start off, I guess, by asking you a few things about the group. The group's been around for a long time. Did you form in 1966 or 67?
I actually can't remember the date at all. I think it was probably earlier than that, slightly earlier than that, maybe 65. I'm not sure.
At the time, it was a four-piece band?
Originally, it was a five-piece band, but that had such a short life that it's not worth. Yeah, the first the first kind of formation of the band that lasted any time was a full-piece, with David Allen on guitar, and Kevin, in fact, was playing rhythm guitar. And
were you playing the bass?
No, let's get it the other way around. David was playing lead guitar, Kevin was playing bass, Robert was playing drums, and I was playing organ.
And I guess your only recorded work were that I found two BYG samples that were...
I mean, they weren't actually records in any sense of the word. I mean, certainly not for the music. They weren't intended to be records. They were just, in fact, we went into the studio one day, demo tapes, to see how the stuff sounded. And we made the mistake of leaving them at Polydor.
Well, I wouldn't say you made a mistake at all, because they're quite good and they stand the test of time, to say the least. Okay, now before you put out your first record, David Allan left the group.
Yeah, that was... We went over to France. I mean, the first stage of the group's life, we were kind of pushed around the usual pop circuit in England, which didn't work out too well. And then we just decided to get kind of jobs on our own. And we started working the art circuit in Europe, which was much better. And we did like the Paris Biennale and Edinburgh Festival and that kind of, which of course socially were much more pleasant and also actually much more effective in terms of promotion. I mean, the word got around straight through to the media. Yeah. And we'd been working in France a lot, and we came back to England, and David, who was an Australian and therefore incurably alien, was refused entrance by the immigration. So in fact we had to carry on as a three-piece.
Is that the reason why? He didn't leave of his own free will?
No, and he had a big black cross put through his passport because he'd been working illegally in England for he's only just, in the last year, been able to get back to England.
With Gone?
Yeah.
Okay, since that time, he formed his own band.
Yeah.
Okay. And, then you carried on as three-piece unit. Was that for, how long was that with Kevin?
That was about 2 years. Yeah, I think, I really can't remember these dates, but it's about 2 or 3 years.
And he left the band for any particular reason?
Well, that was after we'd finished the Hendrix tours. In fact, the band actually dissolved. We came back to Europe and said, well, forget it. But we also had a record commitment to ABC for another record. And after about a month back in England, we reformed just to make the record. No live dates at all. We were just going to do the record. And Kevin was in Spain. And in fact, we needed to get a record together very quickly. And he wasn't around. Hugh was around, and Hugh, in fact, was much quicker at picking things up. I mean, he read music, which Kevin didn't do. And so we were able to rehearse together for about a week, 2 weeks, and then did the second record.
The second record. Now, on the first record, there's a few references to Brian Hopper. Is that Hugh's brother?
Yeah, that's Hugh's brother, yeah.
And did he overdub some parts on the second album?
Yes, he did, yeah. He played saxophone on a couple of tracks on the second album.
He wasn't really involved with the band. At that time, did you tour as a three-piece unit with Hugh Hopper?
Yeah, we were touring as a three-piece. In fact, he had been involved in kind of various prototype soft machine groups, which actually weren't called soft machine, which involved a lot of the other personnel.
Okay.
Yeah.
You recorded the second album in just a week?
I think they've all been recorded in roughly about a week, or a bit longer.
Pretty good.
Yeah, very good. Okay, now, after the second album, I don't know exactly what happened, but the third album came as a total shock to a lot of people, at least in this country, that didn't expect the band to be together. In that, I read in a few pieces of paper that the band had expanded to a large format, more so than just the personnel listed on the third side, but instead he toured as a 10-piece ensemble or something like that?
No, in fact, it was as a 7-piece.
Seven-piece,
yeah. And there's Elton Dean, who's on the third and fourth and fifth. Nick Evans on trombone, Lynn Dobson on tenor and flute, and Mark Charig on flugelhorn and cornet, and plus Hugh, Robin, and myself.
Now those other people that joined your group are members of the British Jazz Circle of musicians.
Yeah.
That I suppose John and Roy and Carl are all.
Yeah, I mean they'd all played together in other kind of arrangements.
Now, was there any reason particularly why that 7-piece touring unit just split? Was it due to financial reasons, touring, or?
No, it's due to a lot of reasons. Yeah, I mean it's partly due to financial reasons in the sense that 7 pieces is actually requires a lot of equipment to make it sound good, which we just couldn't afford. Also, it's a very difficult format to write for. I mean, 7 pieces, it's very hard to keep everybody involved all the time, and especially since they're all pretty individual people, and they all kind of like to be involved all the time. And I mean, it was either it was chaotic and everybody was involved, or it kind of worked in a sense, but people had to be kind of left out for areas. It was very difficult. It was either too strict or, too anarchic. And so we scaled down to a 5-piece with Lynn Dobson. Yeah.
I'm sort of curious, when you mentioned composing, I realize you do a lot of composing. In fact, the 7th album, Carl Jenkins did a lot more than, I guess you haven't done as much. But what I'm really interested in is, how do you go about composing your music? As you said, the other members of the band didn't want to be left out. How much do you arrange? How much do you leave up to improvisation by members of the group?
Well, it depends. I think there's some pieces, in fact, which are completely free. There are other pieces where kind of people are free within kind of certain limitations. I think, the whole range from kind of completely organized to completely free music, exists in the music as it is. And, the percentages change on any given piece of material.
Do you play a lot? Do you find yourself playing a lot of your old themes in terms of...
No.
Sort of given that up and just proceeded on with the music?
Yeah, particularly in the last 3 years, the personnel changes have been very, very fast, and they usually occur at a time when no one considers it's worth teaching new members old material. They may as well teach them new stuff. And so, in fact, you've always got, in this band, I should say, like 2 people know, a certain amount, 3 people know kind of less, and it's that kind of situation.
How long do you envision Soft Machine staying alive right now in its present form?
Well, absolutely, totally impossible to kind of say. Those kind of, I've never been able to. This time isn't different in that sense.
Well, can I ask you, what was the longest aggregation of people? How long was...
I should imagine the trio with Hugh was the longest.
Now...
No, the quartet with Elton.
With Elton,
I should imagine was the longest running.
Okay, now that quartet proceeded to record on Soft Machine 4, and then with Soft Machine 5 we found Robert Wyatt was no longer present in the band, and Phil Howard and John Marshall split sides. Yeah. Was Phil Howard a member of the band?
Yeah, Phil was a member of the band for about 6 months after Robert left.
And he's another one of those members of the British Jazz Circle, so he played with everyone else?
Not so much, no. He has played with people, but he wasn't quite such a, kind of, I don't know how to put it, kind of recognised figure of the orthodox jazz scene.
And when Elton Dean was with Soft Machine, was he also involved in other ensembles on the side, or was he strictly a member of the Soft Machine?
Well, in very certain periods he was only working with Soft Machine, and towards the end of his association with the band, he was also working with his own quartet, which is called Just Us.
Now, is that in existence right now?
It's hard to say. Yes, it is in existence, but whether it actually involves Elton, I don't know. It's like a lot of groups on the British jazz scene, which is to say, it is a band that gets work, and the members of it are the members that are about at the time that the gig takes place. It's a very kind of like floating membership.
That's really quite interesting. Let me see. Now, is there any reason why did Robert Wyatt particularly left the group at the time?
Well, it's sort of, I think there'd been a kind of a musical split developing in the group between Robert and the other 3 members over about a year, 2 years, and when you get musical difference, quite often it's very hard to actually articulate what is really happening. And so all I can tell you is the way he saw it at the time, which isn't necessarily the whole truth, but it was mostly that he didn't like irregular time signatures, that he preferred to work in 4/4, to prefer to do more kind of straight song material. These were the reasons that came up, most frequently, and I think probably, that is a pretty fair reflection of what was going on. Whereas, of course, Elton was much more interested in kind of doing solely instrumental music and working in irregular times, and Hugh and I were also.
Okay, now Robert recorded The End of an Era, his solo album.
Yeah.
Now, was that after he left, or?
No, that was actually when he was still with the band.
Yeah. He had his fair share of irregular time signatures on that album.
Yeah, well, there you go. See, that's what's really hard to reconcile. You see, that's what makes you think there must be more than he actually said.
And then after that, he formed Matching Mole.
Yeah.
And Let me ask you: does mashing mole have anything? What does soft machine mean in France?
It is. It's
Okay.
It's an English paraphrase of the French paraphrase. Yeah.
What I read was true.
Yeah.
Okay. Since that time, let me just conclude by asking exactly what's happening to Robert Wyatt right now, because he was, next to you, probably the longest member of the band.
Yeah.
What's happening right now since his accident, which a lot of people might not really know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the accident was that he fell out of a window and fractured his spine, which means he's paralysed from the waist downward. And I don't think there's any chance of him regaining feeling below the waist. But he seems to be in very good spirits, and he's going to concentrate on singing and plus playing keyboards and maybe hand drums. But I mean, he's got a lot of energy, and he's kind of really excited about starting again.
That's really quite good. Does he have any recording plans in the future?
Well, I'm sure he has, yes. But I don't know whether there's anything concrete as yet.
Or no group or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, at the moment he has been working on other people's albums, doing singing, things like that. I think he's done some stuff with Caravan and other people since the accident.
Are you all
So
friends?
he's working.
Like with Caravan, for example, I don't know, you read these things now and then, you don't exactly remember where you read them. Was Kevin a member of the Wildflowers?
Yeah, the
for example?
Wildflowers was like an early kind of prototype of lots of bands.
Were you involved in that?
No, I wasn't. But Robert and Hugh and Kevin and Pi Hastings and Richard Sinclair and the organist David.
McRae?
No, the organist of Camp, David Sinclair. Yeah, we're all involved with the Wildflowers at one time, although not necessarily at the same time.
Oh, I see. Okay, now since Soft Machine 5 came out, Soft Machine 6 came out, and that was the Turnabout album in which Carl Jenkins was a member of the band. Elton Dean was no longer to be seen. Any reason why Elton split the band?
Yeah, well, Elton was getting progressively more and more dissatisfied with using any written material at all. He just wanted to play completely free, which was what he was doing with Just Us. And in a way he enjoyed doing the kind of stuff we were doing. He felt that he couldn't actually split his time between the two bands, because we were getting a lot of work, and which meant that it was very difficult for him to keep Just Us running at the same time. So he chose to just run with Just Us.
Okay, now, I don't imagine it was that hard to bring Carl into the band because of his familiarity with John.
Yeah, exactly.
Nucleus.
Yeah.
Now, Nucleus, right now, I suppose, had more members of the Soft Machine than the Soft Machine does, in terms of Roy was a member of Nucleus, as was John and Carl. And I guess since Soft Machine 6 came out, which just featured Hugh Hopper was still a member of the band at the time, you now have Carl, Roy, and John from Nucleus. You've got Allan Holdsworth from Tempest, and just Mike Ratledge from the Soft Machine from its very inception. Hugh Hopper left the band with After 6.
Yeah.
Any reason exactly why?
Well, there were lots of reasons, really. One of which was that he didn't really like working live. He didn't like the kind of setup you have on tours, and he was much more interested in doing kind of record sessions. Another thing was he made a solo album.
Right, 1984.
And Soft Machine has always been, the consistent thing is that it's kind of very kind of loose democracy, which usually ends up, an inverted democracy in a sense, which usually ends up doing what the kind of minority wants to do, as it so happens. But anyway, it's a corporate decision, what do you do in the end? And having done that solo album, he realised the kind of delights of kind of fascist setup where you completely control of what happened at the end of it. That plus the fact that the music was getting more and more to the stage where whether it was good or bad depended very much on how well the individuals played that night, and it got to be a bit of a strain, I think.
Oh, for him.
Yeah.
Okay, Alan, haven't hardly said much to you at all today, but let me ask you now. You're the newest member of the band. You haven't yet recorded, but you've joined the band since last November. Now, what exactly happened in terms of you joining the band? Were you solicited to join the band? Did you express interest, or was there a need in Soft Machine for a new instrument?
Well, I think it was an accident, actually. Probably Mike's in a better position to answer that than I am, in as far as of how it happened.
Well, it was nice talking to you. Okay, well, was there a need for a new instrument in the band? Why exactly?
Well, I mean, it was very complicated in a sense. I mean, in terms of the way things happened. But I mean, John had been working with Alan, with Pat Smythe, off and on. I don't know how frequently it was. I mean,
It was covered over a period of about a year.
no,
But it wasn't that frequent.
no.
But we had played a lot together. Yeah.
Yeah, and so John was raving about Alan, and then sooner or later we all kind of slowly heard him, like on radio or something like that. And prior to that, I mean, people had been thinking that maybe we needed kind of an extra instrument in the band. I mean, and
Who was thinking people in the band?
yeah, I mean, some were actually thinking of guitar, some were just thinking of any instrument to expand the possibilities. Because in fact, like a four-piece, although Carl doubles, I mean, you know, texturally you're slightly limited.
This is the first time you've had a lead guitarist though since David Allen.
Yeah, yeah. And then we did a kind of rock music workshop in England, where they've got the system run by the Musicians Union, where you get a band of musicians together, which rehearse about 3 numbers that they haven't played publicly in front of people, and people can ask questions.
That sounds like a very good
yeah,
setup.
and then you end up giving a concert. And we did it with Alan. It was like Soft Machine plus Alan. It worked out so well. That, I mean, in fact, part of it was like looking for a guitar, but I think the most thing is the way Alan plays. I mean, if Alan played saxophone the way he plays guitar, and we'd have had a sax in the band, or, you know, rather than a guitar.
Now, Alan was a member of the group Tempest, and they released one album in this country, which I think is right over here, but I'm not going to bring it out. Now, let me see. You play violin on that. I talked to you earlier about this. Do you plan on bringing your violin into the group after it finally finds its foundation?
Yeah, I'd like to. Yeah.
Well,
I'd like to, but like the things since we started the material that we're doing now, I played most of the things on guitar, you know, and I'd like to find maybe a particular thing that I feel would suit the violin. You know,
okay, when you play,
introduce it, you know.
while you're playing guitar, do you use any particular? Do you just play the guitar? In other words, do you have any electronic equipment? Like I'm sure everyone else has about 3,000 electronic filters that they can play their sound through. But
No,
you just sit out there and.
Just guitar, yeah.
Any influences you have in terms of guitarists?
Well, I've been more influenced by other musicians than guitarists, because I always, like, out of all the records that I've liked, you know, I've always liked jazz, and out of all the records that I ever heard, even the ones that contained like really fine guitar players that I like, I always found that I was more impressed by solos played by other people.
Oh, really?
You know, I think you can extract from any instrument.
And probably what you extracted is what Michael was talking about, that he wished if you played saxophone, you'd be a saxophone member of the band. But you play guitar, and that's really good. Okay, how would you how would you judge Mike Allen's being in the band in terms of your group's changing sound?
Well, I think it has done. It has changed the band's sound a lot. I mean, it's made it warmer. It's very hard to judge these things, actually, especially not having made a record. But I think this is what is happening. It's made it warmer. I mean, you're actually capable of much areas that you haven't been capable of before. I mean, it's actually possible to kind of make riffs sound much heavier, much stronger. I mean, these all sound very hopelessly trivial things.
Okay,
I mean,
that's what we're here on.
yeah,
They
it's
won't be
very
trivial. Okay, let me see. Your last album, Soft Machine 7, was recently released here in January, isn't that right, CBS?
yeah.
Right on. January 7th.
This is CBS.
In the stores.
Okay, and now, although your tour is fairly closely aligned to that record release, I might understand you're basically going to do new material tonight?
Completely. Yeah.
Completely new material? Okay, that should. And do you have recording plans imminent when you arrive back in England? Or do you want to just play your material out right now?
I think we like to do the album as soon as like the time and like the situation allows.
Do you judge the time to be after you're all fully familiar with material and can run riffs up and down and not have to worry about exactly remembering what's going on?
Well, I suppose it makes it better, you know, because because of just what you say, everybody's completely familiar with the things.
Who's doing the compositions these days? Since Carl did most of the material on the 7th album, and you did about 10 minutes worth.
It's split more or less roughly equally by Mike and Carl again.
Are you going to do any composing?
Well, I'd like to, yeah. I haven't got into that just yet, but I'd like to, yeah.
Okay. Now, since Carl's been a member of the band, I noticed personally that the music's gone from what was once really super spacey back more to the earth, more to the gut, sort of a little funkier, if you would. Do you see that as an influence due to his joining the band? Because I noticed a lot of your compositions sort of have changed in style, to say the least.
Yeah, I think that's part. Yeah, I think that has happened. But I mean, things change all the time. I mean, I can't ever see, oneself having ended up doing a certain kind of thing. I mean, things are always changing.
For a while there, I'd say around your 3rd and 4th albums, it sounded an awful lot like most of your compositions sort of were really extremely influenced by Terry Riley, for example. Did you find yourself... okay, you never heard of Terry Riley?
Oh yes,
yeah.
No, I mean this is yeah. I mean this is very complicated. No, it's very complicated. In fact, the band knew Terry Riley a long time ago, and he was in Mallorca with David Allan, the first guitarist of the band, and they were making tape loops together. And
that's what it says in the new Hoppers album in the back.
Yeah.
That you learned to play the bass from talking with David, who had talked with Terry.
Yeah, and then Terry. This was before he had any records out, I think, and I think he'd just done Dorian Reed's in keyboard studies. He came over, and we kind of played together a bit and talked. But I mean, ever since I can remember, I mean, when I was still at school, about 16, we were all making tape loops and using that kind of area. And I think it was something that was happening. I don't know who started, whether David started or Terry started it, or I mean, it was just something that everyone was doing, at that time.
Okay, it seems you sort of abandoned that. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, well, as a device, I mean, in fact, it's very, very old. I mean, lots of cultures have used that kind of approach. I mean,
Are you still playing, like, let me ask you about your equipment right now. For example, I know you've gone crazy with the Echoplex, which sounds quite good. Do you still have your organ? I know whenever your organ's got the most familiar sound of anybody's I've ever heard before. What kind of organ is that?
It's just a Lowry through a fuzzbox.
Through a fuzzbox?
Yeah.
I lost the bet.
That's the end of everything. I've done it.
It's good.
Really? Well, that's incredible. That's really like for me like the most familiar sound in the entire band. I guess you could sort of expect it. Okay. Only have a few more questions. This is a pretty long interview, I guess. Let me ask you, how would you assess your standing right now in terms of your American public? Like, how would you think the press has treated you?
Oh God, I really don't know, because I haven't actually seen any reports of this tour so far. We've heard that the reaction has been very good, and the agency says that all the reports have been good, and certainly the reactions to the public have been
good, yeah.
Good.
Just got a review in Rolling Stone of 7.
Yeah.
Said it
I
was
haven't
this
read
week.
that.
Yeah, they really liked it, so you should be happy as far as that goes. And so you found American audiences as a whole are appreciative of the band?
Yeah. They seem to be.
Yeah.
What kind of bills have you been playing? Have you been second bill, top bill? Have you been playing small gigs like this?
It's been a mixture of everything. We've done some with like top bill, some bottom bill, some big concerts, some small clubs.
And I guess you've had a fairly enthusiastic crowd out here. I know you have one tonight. Okay, let me see. A few more questions. How far do you think you're going to go after this around the country before you head on back to England?
We've got another 2 weeks to go, have we?
Yeah.
Well,
You're going to go back for 10 days and then come back and do the West Coast, right?
Yeah, do another 6 weeks, or 4 weeks, I think.
What are you going to do when you're home?
Just kind of wash underwear. That's about it.
Okay. Anything you want to say in closing this interview? Except everyone come out to the brewery tonight.
Oh, yeah, we'll leave you to say that. As many times as possible.
Business.
I'm sure they will.
Guess it is.
Okay, well, you heard them first, folks. You heard Mike Ratledge, Allan Holdsworth of the Soft Machine, and a few other people that aren't worth mentioning. Okay, thank you very much, Mike and Allan. Appreciate everything. You've done a fine job. I really I really
you.
personally enjoyed getting a lot of history, right from the horse or organ player's mouth, depending. And I guess that's going to close this interview. Okay? Peace and love. Vote for me.